Hi, this is Marilyn Tate. This is my Module 3 for EDL 853, the findings in my special education interviews. So first question was what child procedures are in place in our school. Our administrator talked about the fact that being in middle school, most of our students are identified before we get them. And so that's something we don't do as much of as we do. And I come from elementary school, moving to middle school, so I know it does happen more often in elementary. She said the teachers can request testing if they feel the student's struggling, and parents can request testing as well if they feel the need. Our special education teacher specifically mentioned RTI, response to intervention, and the tiers involved with that in order to get a child placed. She did mention as well that most of the screening occurs in elementary school. Our paraprofessionals noted that our district has policy. She knew of RTI, but she really didn't know as much about that. What is the most challenging part of your role in regards to special education and why? For our administrator, ensuring compliance. She talks about compliance a lot. She said because IEPs vary widely, again, going back to we're getting them from, the elementary schools and not really creating them to start at our school. She says we have a lot of limited resources where it makes it really difficult to follow the IEPs that have been written in the elementary schools with what we have. She's also mentioned how discipline is definitely, because how you deal with discipline in the sped child is different than other kids. Our special education teacher mentioned that getting students in the correct placement is a big deal. She also said IEPs coming from different elementary schools are very different, and they're not really written for the middle school schedule, so it's kind of hard. Paraprofessionals mentioned for her it's just feeling helpless when you see a child struggling to succeed. So what's the most rewarding part of their jobs, I asked. So our administrator talked about interacting with the most vulnerable students and seeing our severe and profound kids interact with our student body. She sees a lot of that happen and is able to watch our general student body kind of help these kids out, and they're real protective of them, and she really enjoys that part of the job. Our special education teacher talked about how she seeing these kids that are really excited to come to school, and then when they're there, when they get to experience some sort of success and accomplishment, that's very rewarding for her. Now, our paraprofessional talked about working with students on a task until they're able to do it with her, and then later they move on and they're able to do it independently. She says that's just the greatest thing in her job. What advice do you have on supervision of all the special education staff? Our administrator says know the laws and what's necessary for compliance. Of course, that's a big thing for her is compliance. Be proactive about what you see going on and making sure things are taken care of as opposed to waiting until you have a problem. And then making sure that everybody is doing their part is important to her, because everyone has a specific part in the coverage of our IEPs. Our special education teacher talked about she would like for basically SPED teachers and staff to be included in scheduling whenever possible, because again, in the middle school setting, scheduling is kind of a big deal, and it's kind of difficult, and trying to make sure everyone is served exactly according to their IP in the best way we can do it. Our paraprofessional said she would encourage them to get to know the students, all of the students that we have in our special education program, and then reinforce the importance of being aware of what's going on with the students. She's very student centered. How do you work effectively with the parents of special needs children? Our administrator says you've got to show them that you want what's best for their child, and understand that sometimes they're gonna be upset, and they're not gonna be happy with us, and they're gonna come across as angry or rude, but really they're just worried about their children. Our special education teacher says, you've got to just have consistent communication, and then also include positive reports. Don't just only talk to that parent or get hold of them when their child has done something wrong or something bad's going on. Let them know when they're successful. Our paraprofessional mentioned you have to have open communication, keep them informed, and ask them their opinion about what they think. The advice for first-year administrators in regards to SPED. Our administrator says you've got to be well-versed in SPED laws. Don't assume that everybody in the SPED department is aware of all of the laws, because they are always changing, because ultimately compliance is the administrator's responsibility. Our SPED teacher says support your teachers and have their back. And then she said, work with me, work to help me be effective in my job, and all SPED teachers. The paraprofessional says get to know all of the kids, talk to us, ask our opinion. Now, how do you describe the role of the SPED teacher and the building principal? The SPED teacher and building administrators must work together to ensure compliance. This is with my administrator that I interviewed. Compliance goes all the way across everything. SPED teacher said working together to do what's best for the students, and that really is what we do. And understand that decisions might not be right the first time, and we might have to make changes in plans that we come up with. The paraprofessional said she feels that we're united, and administration is supportive, and they understand our positions, and that's how it should be. Now, what characteristics do you seek in aspiring administrators? As far as special ed's concerned, our administrator says knowledge. You've got to know. You've got to know the laws. That's a big one. Know everything that's involved in that. Empathy for parents and for children and for teachers. Responsibility. You are responsible for so many things. And then organization. There's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of things. If you're not organized, you're going to get kind of confused. Our SPED teacher said the administrator needs to have integrity. They need to be consistent and supportive of their staff, and knowledgeable as well, as far as what the SPED job pertains to. Our paraprofessional said they want an administrator that would be energetic and fun and happy and loving. So my reflection is basically, all the way across, my administrator says it's really important, to be aware of laws and to be in compliance. And we all know it is, and it's administrator's responsibility. But the ability to work together is something that seems, to be a common feeling among everyone. Mutual respect, communication, and then just basically relationships. All of those things are kind of important in any area in a school, not just the SPED department. I do say, though, of course, the knowledge of laws is there's so much more to it in our SPED and the SPED department than just the general curriculum. Of course, there are laws involved, and regulations, but they're pretty common. Everybody knows about them, and they don't change quite as often. We've got things changing all the time as far as our SPED kids in our state, and, locally, statewide, and even federally. So it was really interesting to interview people in 3 different areas and see how they viewed even the question. They looked at it from different angles, Our para definitely looked at it more from relationships, where the administrator, it was more about compliance and laws. And then our special education teacher, which I had her listed in the middle, and she was sort of kind of in the middle as well. In between, she's got the relationship thing in hers, as well as knowing, the compliance is important in laws and legality. So, thank you for watching.